With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Rachel, who writes, Deadline is reporting that California will now be allowed to reopen theaters at 50% capacity. I'm actually hearing it's going to be 25% capacity, but regardless. On June 12th, the same day that films and TV resume production. If California does this in a few days, do you think most other states will follow suit, given how much lesser their curve is? Thanks for taking my question. Wish you all the best. All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Rachel. And yes, the thing we've all been waiting for as movie fans, just talking about in our little movie fandom circles. I know there are bigger, more important issues, but here we talk about the movie world. The thing we've all been waiting for is this whole idea of film and television going back into production. We just talked about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2. We've also been waiting very anxiously for the movie theaters to reopen. Now, in recent days, we've talked about stories about how Regal said, we'll be open by the time Tenet opens up. We will be open by then. Cinemark has said they were going to start slowly rolling out in phases, reopening their theaters, starting today, actually. Starting today, June 9th, in certain states, they're going to start the slow process of reopening the theaters. We've known that AMC has got their plans to do so as well. But now the government of California, kind of the central hub of movie and film production, has said that they are going to allow movie theaters to reopen this week, June 12th. Now, there are some contradictory reports out there right now. Some are saying that theaters will be allowed to open to 50% capacity. Some are saying it's 25% capacity. Whatever, it's going to be limited. It's going to be limited, which is wise right now. It's the smart thing to do. Whether or not it's smart or not to reopen theaters at all is a topic for another debate and another discussion. The fact of the matter is, it does look like they're going to be opening. You know, we've been talking here about how as every one of these events happens, we have stopped to reflect on what does this mean for the ultimate reopening, and really, how does it all tie into Tenet? You know, when Regal said we'll be open in time for when Tenet's going to be released, we talked about how does that bold for Tenet. When we heard that Cinemark is going to be reopening, we talked about how does that affect Tenet. When we heard that Disney was still holding on to that July 24th release date for Mulan, we talked about how does this affect Tenet. So again, here we are talking about theaters apparently in California are going to be reopening. Does this bode well for Tenet? Rob, I got to say for me, it's the same answer I gave before when Regal reopened, when Cinemark reopened, when all this and when NATO came out and said that they believe by mid-July, 90% of the theaters will be open. My thoughts then and my thoughts now still are, this doesn't guarantee that Tenet will be opening on July 17th. I don't think this guarantees it. But like all those other developments, I think it's just one more thing that bodes well for the idea of Tenet. You know, I was 60% sure that Tenet would open. Then we saw that Regal was going to be saying they were going to be open in time. And I thought, okay, maybe it's about 70% chance Tenet. Then we heard that NATO said about 90% of theaters will be open. Then I thought it was about 75%. Now California is opening their movie theaters. So it doesn't guarantee it. I'm thinking this bodes very well for that July 17th date, though, which is still over a month away. And now we're seeing Bill and Ted releasing trailers. Now, granted, that movie doesn't come out to the end of August, but now we're seeing other movies stepping up. We saw Unhinged, the Russell Crowe film. They just spent a whole ton of money sponsoring and advertising all over the most recent UFC event this Saturday. So we're seeing all these signs. So I'm feeling more confident than ever that Tenet will open on July 17th, even though I still don't think it's a guarantee. But everything is pointing in the right direction. Rob, we've been waiting for this, but now California is saying they're going to reopen their theaters. We've already seen some states start to allow certain theaters to reopen. How does this strike you? Does this bode well? Is it still something we need to be really cautious of? Where does this sit with you right now?
Well, I'm in the middle of a book that I'm reading called The End of October that was written by Lawrence Wright, who wrote the book that the Looming Tower, which was an Amazon series, was based on. And it's a book he was writing. He didn't know it was going to happen. It's about a global pandemic. And, you know, before we went on the show today, there were 3,097 COVID cases diagnosed yesterday in Los Angeles, in California, and 27 people passed away. And we are still in the midst of a global pandemic. You know, when I go to my local Vons, who, by the way, has kicked ass during this time, You still have to wear a mask. You still have to be hit with hand sanitizer before you go in. I want to see Tenet. John, I don't think I wanted to see a movie as badly. I can't remember when I was excited as much as I am to see Tenet. I can't wait. As I said, I would wear a hazmat suit with a rebreather and oxygen tanks if that's what it took to go into a theater to see this movie. But I don't know if now is the time that we should be opening movie theaters. I don't know. I mean, look, America has been undergoing a great experiment over the last week in terms of people gathering together in large groups. And I don't know. I don't know. But I know the theaters have to make money. I know they're teetering on the brink. By the way, if you looked at AMC's stock price yesterday, your wife was a very smart lady. It's up to like $8.
Oh yeah. We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, and I just don't know, John. I think that we should do these kinds of things very cautiously. We are still in the midst of a global pandemic. But damn, I want to see Tenet. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I you and I have been going back and forth on this for a while because I mean, I agree. But again, I was talking the other day about how Ann and I went for a walk in downtown Burbank just the other night. And all the restaurants are open.
Yeah.
And full to what their capacity is. Like they have limited capacity, but they were all at capacity. And people lined up outside 6 feet apart, but lined up outside waiting to get in. And, you know, you see people like as the restaurants open, which by the way, I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. I feel much safer walking into a big movie theater than I do sitting in a low ceilinged restaurant. But
right.
But, you know, I just think it shows that people are going out. But so let me ask you this question, though, because I think you articulated why you thought what should happen very well. But let me ask you this. On 0 to 100, percentage chance here, with Regal saying they are going to be open, with Cinemark saying they're going to be open, with NATO saying there's going to be 90% of theaters, and now with this week, California reopening the movie theaters again, what would you say the chances are, not whether it should, but what would you say are the chances right now that Tenet does actually open on July 17th? Where would you put those odds right now?
Well, you know, we have said on this show in the past that they would make the final call by June 15th. That's what I was thinking. I think they've said they've needed 80% of the movie theaters in the world to open before they're going to release Tenet. I don't know what that number is. I would err on the side of, I think 65%. The Tenet will.
So not quite as high as me. But you're still saying you still say if you had to put $5 on it, you're saying 65% chance that Tenet will open on the 17th.
65, yes, but I think we'll know for a fact by June 15th. I think there are factors now that we just don't know, so it's hard for me to make as educated of a guess as possible. But I would say 65% at least
so
right
we're
now.
only about 15% off because I'm going to say 80. So you and I are only about 15% off. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this latest development that California is going to be opening their movie theaters or allowing movie theaters to reopen this week? That combined with all the other news we've talked about over the last week or so, what do you think the chances are that Tenet actually does come in on July 17th? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.